Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place during the previous night of the local time. And during the previous night and this morning, the Russians conducted another massive missile and drone strikes all over the entire Ukraine. The Ukrainians reported about a significant number of missiles and drones that were flying above the territory of Ukraine, and that they managed to bring down a significant number of them. For example, the Ukrainians are saying that they managed to destroy 26 of 36 rockets and 58 of 60 drones. It's of course up to you to believe or not these numbers, but regarding the reports of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, we have a lot of reports about significant damage that the Russians managed to deal just during the previous night. The Russians were attacking the Ukraine using different waves. The Russians were attacking from the north, from the south, from the east. The Russian, let's say, missiles and drones were flying above the territory, and the sources are saying that there are a lot of Shaheeds. This hasn't happened for a long time. The quantity increased to 40 pieces. They're coming from both the south and the north. The Russians also launched an underwater missile carrier into the Black Sea after a week-long pause. The ammunition capacity is 4 caliber missiles. The level of missile danger is very high. And today the Russians were attacking the same things that the Russians were attacking during the previous weeks, and the Russians were targeting the energy facilities and energy infrastructure of Ukraine. According to information we have, the explosions took place in Cherkasy. Now it's very difficult to understand what exactly the Russians were targeting in this area, but the sources reported that the Russians tried to attack the power plants. When moving further closer to Dnipro, we have reports about lots of explosions. The Russian Gerans were flying above the town without almost any resistance or barriers from the Ukrainian armed forces. There were lots of explosions, and the sources reported that mainly the Russians were targeting this area. This is another power plant along Dnipro River, and it is reported that the rivals were in the area of the Sredneprovskaya hydroelectric station, after which power outages began in the area of the station. So lots of reports are coming exactly from the territory. I'll remind you that just a few days ago the Russians attacked another power plant further along the Dnipro River, and we are talking about the Dnipro Dam in the area of Zaporozhye. This is it. This is the railways. This is the let's say power plant that was damaged the previous week. And now we see that the Russians continue the same story. They continue attacking energy facilities. Furthermore, the sources reported that the Russians also attacked and bombed the power plant in the area of Kryvyi Rog. So the Russians in this case were attacking the Ukrainian let's say power plant in the vicinity of Zelenodolsk. This is the Zelenodolsk Kryvyi Rog let's say power plant. There were explosions in this area. At least we have reports from the sources on the ground, and the arrivals are reported from Kryvyi Rog thermal power plant and Sredneprovska hydroelectronic power station near town of Kamyanskaya. After the explosions, there was a very difficult situation with the energy supply, and the also residents of several other settlements in the Dnipropetrovsk region reports loss of electricity. So that was the Russian attack. And I'll remind you that just during the previous 2 weeks the Russians destroyed, at least we have geolocated confirmed strikes of from 4 till up to 6 power plants all over the entire Ukraine, in Kharkiv area, in Dnipro region, Zaporozhye area, and further to the west in different let's say areas of the western Ukraine. So obviously today we're going to receive more updates about the consequences of those attacks and those strikes. Now, furthermore, we received a very interesting report from the Kazakhstan embassy in Ukraine. The embassy of Kazakhstan in Ukraine recommended its citizens to leave the Odessa and Kharkiv regions due to the growing tensions and unstable security situation in the Odessa and Kharkiv regions. The Kazakh embassy in Ukraine recommends that Kazakh citizens leave these regions. This of course can mean lots of things, starting just the difficult situation in both towns due to electricity problem and energy supply problem, but from the other side this might be let's say the action of goodwill from the Russian authorities to Kazakhstan, telling them that it's better to evacuate civilians, because very likely the Russians do have some plans to start offensive operation exactly on these two directions. Now we are moving to the situation on the ground. We have lots of very interesting details and updates, mainly from Novomikhailivka area. The Russians continue their offensive operation. As you can see, we have adjusted the map because we have a lot of very interesting details. We have one geolocation that was published by the Ukrainian Armed Forces. On this video, very short video, it's like a summarize of cuts of different videos from the area. The Russian attack, a lot of destroyed tanks, lots of explosions, and so on, and there were a few moments that people managed to geolocate, and the final point, the edge point of Russian attack, was geolocated in this area. So according to that video, we can make a conclusion that the Russians were attacking something like this towards this residential area, toward this part. Furthermore, we have Russian sources who confirmed additional Russian progress. This photo is the situation in the area on the 25th of March, so basically 4 days ago, according to pro-Russian mappers, and this is the situation by the 29th of March. And as you can see, as a result of the Russian offensive operation from 25th till 29th of March, the Russians established control over the farms, and also the Russians managed to establish control, or at least to enter residential area, let's say in this part of Novomikhailivka. When talking about the farms, we have received geolocations and videos in the past, so that's why we have changed the map. But about this residential area, we still haven't received anything. I believe that this is correct information. I believe that sooner or later we're going to receive some geolocations and updates, and then we will change the color. But anyway, regarding the whether we change the map or not, we see that the situation for Ukrainians in the village is getting worse and worse, and very likely the Ukrainians will continue falling back towards Konstantinovka and Paraskovyevka. We can say that the Ukrainians who is still in this part of the village has already appeared in operational encirclement, because if we once again, let's take a look at the video. On this video, we can see the supply road and evacuation machine, the Ukrainians who was trying to evacuate and run away from the western part of Novomikhailivka, but they got under artillery fire and basically they were destroyed. Just a moment, and this is an explosion. So we see already operational encirclement and no chances for the Ukrainians to evacuate or to send additional reinforcements inside of the western part. Very likely that maybe not today, but maybe by the end of this weekend, we're gonna receive the final capture of the village by the Russians. We continue receiving additional updates on the western part of Avdiivka. Today, if you remember during the previous videos, a lot of mappers have already changed the colors of the territories, colored every single square meter in the fields under the Russian control. But for example, today we got another video confirming completely different situation. On this video, we see the Russians bombing and attacking the Ukrainian positions and Ukrainian forces, and to the west of Toninka, they are still clearing the area. For example, this is the area that was under very heavy fire by the Russian FPV drones and artillery, which confirms that there are still Ukrainians, and very likely that currently this is the defense belt that still under Ukrainian control, and that the Russians are trying to penetrate to move further. More and more reports confirming additional Russian progress in Berdichi. The sources reported that Ukrainians abandoned their positions from the northern part of Berdichi towards the northwestern part. The Russians very likely will clear the area completely, so everything is just a regular military routine. The Russians are pushing, the Russians are forcing the Ukrainians to fall back, and there are very heavy clashes already inside of Semyonovka. On this video, we can see the Russian tank attacked Ukraine position from the Russian hidden position. So nothing special, the offensive operation continues. As a result of counter-artillery duels, few additional artillery systems were destroyed by the Russians with the Krasnopol hit to the west of Donetsk and Avdiivka. For example, we have a few more updates from Klishchiivka direction and from Bakhmut, Artyomovsk direction. The Russians continue clearing the fields between Ivanovska and Klishchiivka with FPV drones, with TOS flamethrower systems. Maybe some of the videos are old, maybe some of the videos are fresh. Anyway, we see that there are still clashes. The Ukrainians try to counterattack, and now we can make a conclusion that the Russians still try to clear these fields and this area between Klishchiivka and Ivanovska. So it's not very big goal, not something big, not very big objective, but also very necessary and important to shorten the line of combat contact, to maintain the positions, and just to collect additional forces for further offensive operation. Very interesting details and updates are coming from Ukraine, from Russia itself. And for example, today we have report that Russia has cooperates with the FSB and Roskomnadzor, and this is very important news. And according to these conclusions were made based on the information that the Russians received very fast information from Telegram about the terrorist attack in Russia by the terrorists from Tajikistan. And from the other side, today we continue receiving updates that Ukrainians are planning to block Telegram in Ukraine. So as you can see, from one side we see the Russians are trying to develop the cooperation with Telegram in Russia, and from the other side we see Ukrainians are planning to close Telegram because they understand that very likely Russia has everything they need about the situation in Ukraine, also using such a source of information as Telegram. Important statement we received from the Minister of the Foreign Affairs of Russian Federation. You know that Zelensky is going to lose his legal power on the 20th of May, and today Lavrov stated that there may be no need to discuss the legitimacy of Zelensky's role after May 20. Let's wait until then. So I'm not saying that he is saying that the Russians start hunting him, but Zelensky has a lot of problems, not just with Russia. He has a lot of problems in the entire inner Ukraine with the people inside of Ukraine. So possibly that something might happen with him before the 20th of May. And the Ukrainians continue building the fortification around Odessa, and also once again remind you, the Russian Kazakhstan embassy demanded and requested people of Kazakhstan from Odessa and Kharkiv to evacuate area to reduce the risks of being attacked, or nobody knows what exactly they were talking about. And that's it for the short video. Military Summary channel reminds you to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes to my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.